Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Perception Paradox. My name is Zivile and I'm your host. And today, before we dive into the episode, I just want to remind you guys, it's mid-June. Next week, we are already celebrating St. John's Day. And yeah, where I'm coming from Lithuania, that's kind of a crucial celebration where we gather with friends, we dance around the bonfire, we create crowns, we make a feast, and that's also a bit of this kind of acceleration into the summer season. So today I'm joined by Andrius Milinavicius and Erik Bhullar from BSV Ventures, who has just wrapped up their latest portfolio day here in Vilnius. And we decided just to sit down, have a look into the deep tech startups and venture capital. And yeah, so you're up for a treat. Get ready for an unfiltered look at investment strategy, the crucial role of founders, navigating uncertainty, and how even the most driven entrepreneurs find balance. So let's dive into this a bit, I would say, different episode of Perception Paradox. So definitely let me know what you think. So tune in, enjoy, and yeah. Real people, real stories, and real challenges that break the status quo. I'm your host, Zivile, and welcome to Perception Paradox.
Constant improvisation. That's startup life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's life. So, ladies and gentlemen, because the constant improvisation is part of our lifestyle, I am here today with two gentlemen, Andrius and Erik.
I'm not sure about the gentle part, but sure.
Yeah, we need to use the microphone.
Yeah, we'll share the microphone.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah.
Okay, anyway, so we are here actually to do a bit of a closure of spring. It's mid-June, midsummer is here, and
Season finale.
the finale, grand finale for the startup scene before going on a quick break.
It's like with your favorite, this episode, the last episode of your favorite show, right? It's like season 2, episode 12, and now you know that you need to wait for one more year until the new episode comes.
That's an inspiring message to go into the summer with.
So that's why I'm having these two guys with me today, because yesterday they had also they had the demo day and the kind of close roundup of the year.
Portfolio day. Yeah.
Portfolio day. Oh, okay, good.
So it wasn't just the companies in our acceleration batch, but it's also companies that have previously finished the acceleration but have made more progress and wanted to showcase what they're up to. So hence portfolio.
Okay, so how are you feeling after that?
I don't know. How are we feeling?
The latest feedback that I just received on my phone was very simple. That was a very fresh breeze of very nice and good ideas in one room.
Well, I mean, for us, I think the key thing is the synergies between the companies that we invest in are so high, and these founders are all brilliant, so focused on their spaces to finally have the chance to sometimes come together and talk about their own domain space. Like in life sciences, we have the conversation about 4 different startups that all realize that, 2 or 3 of them have different synergies, and they can actually collaborate on pushing the science forward and actually improving personalized healthcare and cancer treatments or like regenerative medicine and so on. So it's an inspiring future, and glad we are nudging it in that direction right here in Europe. So that's exciting to me at least. So.
How geographically diversified your portfolio is, because it seems like not only from the Baltics, the companies are coming.
We're obviously headquartered in Lithuania. I'm based in Tallinn in Estonia, and we have partners in Helsinki, Finland. And investment-wise, we've invested in Finland, obviously, also Estonia, also Lithuania, of course, a large amount. We've also invested in Sweden, in Netherlands, in France as well. So like we have investments all over EU. Primarily, we focus on the Nordic and Baltic region, the Baltic Sea region, so to speak, right? So you have like the Baltic countries, we have Nordics, and but we can invest anywhere in the EU. If we go outside of our region, we'll focus on deals where we see both very compelling technology, very compelling team, and a local investor who actually knows the nuances of the local ecosystem to help with diligence. But in the local Nordic and Baltic ecosystem, we are well established and well connected, so we can usually be very helpful to teams. So that's where we focus.
One more definition. Where do we invest? It should be very little amount of sun, very cold weather, and people that actually like to get shit.
People who work because what else are you
Exactly. So to the north of Europe.
Right.
Let's put it this way.
Okay, so since we're midsummer, so what do you do then with founders when summer come?
Founders work all the time, right?
What about the work-life balance?
When you love what you do is play. And honestly, if you are a founder of a business, like for example, I'll just give you an example of a company everybody would have heard about, Airbnb. When they were big in the US, before they branched into Europe, there were so many European copycats doing exactly what Airbnb does. Airbnb is still the biggest in Europe. Why? Because they love what they do. Brian Chesky is obsessed. And there's all the others who were copying were mercenaries, not missionaries. We invest in missionaries. So our founders do what they love. And if they take a break, they take a break, but they're still processing. So, I mean, a good work ethic does require a good rest ethic. And we are in Europe. We're not, we have a different approach to lifestyle. But that being said, founders are extremely dedicated and they put in more than 110%. So we try to back them with the same energy. So,
Amen to this.
well, we are recording, so so there we
It's
go.
okay, we'll provide you with the transcript if you
There you
want
go.
to.
There you go.
Awesome. So, all right. So you have now in your portfolio, 42 companies?
42 companies, around 87 founders across those companies. So we spend a lot of time on getting the call at 2 a.m. when they're like, Erik, what the F am I doing with my life? to like, hey, I'm struggling with this challenge or that challenge. I'm trying to hire this talent. They're super expensive but super valuable. But then how do I think about the negotiation with them? To I have a potential strategic partner, but they could be a competitor too. How do I negotiate this? Different challenges all the time. So it's fun.
Yeah, but what is inspiring, since we were kind of also, not only we had the portfolio day yesterday, we also gathered our own investors in one room. So we had the chance to look at the numbers, look at the data, and to actually do a very good recap on what happened, right? So I'm still very surprised, more than 5,000 applications, more than 858 of relevant deep tech applications we received as a fund.
So you received 5,000 in total.
About 5,000.
Yeah, yes. If we count all the channels where we get it, despite the fact no one listens, that if you write us on LinkedIn, it will not give you any more credits. Yes.
It's a way to get ignored. I'm sorry, but life's about time and priority.
No, we have one channel. It's a website, and there's a very big button, apply. That's it. That's the only place, right? So from all of the 5,800, more than 800 is very relevant, actual deep tech, and only 42 investments.
I think it's easier to get into Harvard.
Oh, really?
Come on. Is it?
Potentially.
So what's your thought process then? If you received 5,000 applications, how do you filter? It's a huge amount.
Well, so unlike some people, we actually use technology aside from just investing in it. And so we do have some level of automated filtering, but provided it is indeed a deep tech case, then a human will look at it at some point. But there's some level of things we do. We don't use also let's say US-based servers for some of the automation stuff, because obviously, we're in Europe and we have certain privacy standards. Even if certain funds are using OpenAI's API, that's fine. But anyway, the point is we have an analyst team who goes through, and we have established processes around how we filter, and then how we then narrow down which opportunities should surface to the partnership level. We then have partner conversations also with those teams. And it's a process we go through. And obviously, without going into too much detail, because that's a longer conversation.
Yeah.
But long story short, we're looking for companies with a fundamental scientific and R&D based edge or advantage. So our whole mindset when it comes to looking at businesses, obviously it has to be venture grade, there has to be the potential for growth, but we are relatively patient. We have a 8 to 12 year kind of range of holding the investment, and so it depends on the case and depends on when we've done the investment. We can hold the investment some period of time. So we're looking for somebody who can build a business, or a team who can build a business based on that scientific edge, but also understands that there's a whole business and company building and organizational building that needs to happen, and you have to solve a meaningful enough problem in the market that's large enough for that opportunity. But if you have that edge that I talked about, fundamental science and engineering, you will be doing things that are faster, cheaper, better than anybody else, right? Quantifiably. And so, for example, we could use tons of examples for our portfolio, but there's a company in our portfolio we're doing the investment now, right? We've all heard of Estonia's success with Skeleton Technologies, which is a supercapacitor company. And this is a non-recyclable product. It's, it's got its own challenges, but it's amazing what the team's been able to do in Estonia. There's another company doing a new type of supercapacitor that is approximately a quarter or a fifth the cost to produce, and it is 99% recyclable.
It's a game changer.
It's a game changer. Like right now, for example, Europe's grid, every second is losing 4,000 euros because of grid fluctuation and energy loss. Every second. So in a 7 minutes conversation, I think we've roughly been speaking for 7 minutes, 1.68 million has been burned that could have been saved by this technology. Right? So that's the opportunity potential, right? But again, the founders might not articulate it that way because they're scientifically minded. Brilliant team though. And so we try to help with, getting the fellow capital allocators to look at and understand the opportunities right here in Europe under our noses, of which we've invested in 42. And to say like, look, let's invest in this, keep this here, and also grow it out of here and benefit economically. And also from an impact perspective, to not waste the energy that we so preciously need for Europe and for growth. And if we want to advance on AI or other things, we need a lot more energy.
And I think that's exactly what Draghi is writing in his book, right? That was presented at the European Commission. So basically, yes, we do have the talent. No, we don't have to lose it. And if we, for example, we're not the only ones that do it, right? But if we will have a stable strategy and we will actually continue on deploying the capital at the very early stage to actually mindful and very scientific and engineering brilliant people, what bad can happen?
I mean, the other thing to keep in mind also is like when a lot of people who say they invest early stage tend to be Series A, right? Now, the thing is,
Show me the money.
at a Series A level plus, the company's already validated their unit economics. They've already validated a lot of things, right? At the stage we focus, which is pre-seed and seed, at very early, it's usually post-breakthrough. Obviously, if you haven't got the breakthrough yet, you're just doing research, then sure, we don't invest in that. But if you've done the breakthrough, you need to file patents effectively. You need to make sure your IP is strong. You need to make sure you have a fully formed team that can actually execute to an opportunity. You need a strategy for how you're going to bring what you've developed into the market. How are you going to productize? How are you going to operationalize it? How are you going to sell it? Who are you going to sell to? Why this customer instead of that customer? If you can sell to potentially both, why will you prioritize which one? There's a lot of questions that have to be answered that are not technical in nature, but are operational and business building in nature. That's where we partner with early stage research oriented teams to help them figure that out. That's what we call pre-seed, right? Or acceleration. And then we have the seed fund, which doubles down on the top teams that go through that funnel. So that's how we approach investing. And the competency as an investor that you need in technical domains is exponentially higher to go earlier because there's no revenue. There's no balance sheet. There's
nothing to look at, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so you need much more competence. And so the higher competency investors will be the ones who understand how to go early, or the gamblers. But anyway, there's another story. But it's a place for the higher competency ones to play. When you go to Series A plus, the competency on the tech is lower. The competency on the scaling side and on the financial planning side to make sure you're funded for the growth play you want to do is higher. That you need, right? And so, we like to say we specialize on both the technical and that as well. So we can then help these companies get to a stage where they can then articulate that business case for a scale-up play to a Series A or B fund. But yeah, so we like to focus on pre-seed.
And with this, ladies and gentlemen, you just saw a perfect justification. Why did we receive more than 5,000 applications and 859 were relevant, right?
And why the NATO Innovation Fund invested in us. It's the only Baltic.
That too.
Yes, exactly.
Amazing. Feels like from a catalog from the book. What's hot right now in deep tech, guys?
Jesus Christ, where to go?
You want to go first?
Let's agree on what is deep tech for us. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And what is deep tech for you? Because it's so broad.
We mentioned this fundamental scientific and R&D based edge. And that doesn't necessarily mean patent, though most of the time it does mean that you have something that you can patent or you can keep as a trade secret. But effective IP that is with very rare competencies to develop. Developing software, developing another CRM system, developing another ERP system, or some app for some social thing, anybody can replicate that, right? There's no intellectual property edge. But if you're doing novel AI algorithms to low-level code, to quantum compute, foundation model, these types of things, or supercapacitors, or new types of battery chemistries, or long-range drones using hydrogen and fuel, or these types of things, then you need much more competency, and you potentially have patents that you can file. So those are the types of companies we invest in. But what was your other question?
What are you excited about? What's hot? You just mentioned a couple of topics, obviously. I'm very closely looking at what is happening in life science because I believe we're on the edge of something very exciting because the capacity of scientists or engineers to do research, it has changed in the last 10 years dramatically, right? So like you had to have 35 scientists in a room to do something, right? Great to figure out something. Now you need one box and two scientists that know how to challenge themselves.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. But the other thing is like personalized healthcare is the future. If you look at the domains of mathematics, physics, chemistry, and biology, as a species, we are very behind on biology compared to the other fields. That's changing now. But we are still we barely understand a lot of things from cell interactions with different, potential chemistries for drug discovery and all this other stuff, right? So I think the more we upgrade our understanding as a species, the more we're going to be able to improve our healthcare outcomes. Eventually, there'll be some generation that will escape death, but let's see. Whether that's a good thing or not is also another question. But anyway, my point is, I think it's worth the effort of advancing in this area, not just for, and this goes back to the conversation yesterday with our portfolio companies, like brilliant teams, and we learn so much from them all the time. Like they're not just talking about, okay, I have a health problem, how do I solve it? They're also talking about, okay, even if I don't have a health problem, how do I enhance myself as a human being? Talking about superhuman capabilities, whether that's on the intellectual side or physical side or whatever else, right? So I think that is definitely a future that's coming. It's pretty much already here. It's just, the cost differential and people investing in that and so on. But I think that is going to eventually become quite normative, and we're going to have hopefully not just less mortality, but importantly, less morbidity. So morbidity and mortality, the two issues in healthcare. Morbidity is just you're living with a chronic issue that is constantly just debilitating, right? And that life is potentially worse than the mortality part, because at least it's a binary, like you're not suffering anymore in some ways, in theory. I don't know what happens after, but anyway. But the point is, so I think that's a big part, and I think that'll improve lives for billions of people around the world. Aside from the healthcare side, I think obviously everyone's talking about AI, and AGI and ASI or whatever. Super intelligent.
Far from there.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, I think it's very important that we understand the game that we are playing, because not every country or nation will have the same ethical approach to artificial intelligence and the use and application of it.
So who can you trust?
Exactly.
I'm promoting the book.
But I mean, I've not read it yet, but I've heard good things. But anyway, the point is that, so I think, Europe has its perspective on it. Some things could be improved, but in general, I think we care a bit more about the individual as sovereign and privacy. And not only that, I think, there's a more nuanced understanding of the need to protect national and individual interests in Europe compared to maybe certain other places. And so we should advance AI maximally, but at the same time with those values compared to those who might, in certain countries, for example, use it to check whether you're not offending the state, thought process, right?
Yeah.
So.
Not only this, to be very honest, let's not get there maybe, right? But obviously I think we are living in a slightly dangerous times, right? Where the power versus democracy, the free will, and the actual values that people, as a society, like, right, living in some place, we're trying to create something good, right, for good. But as Erik is talking about, the power has a tendency to be exploited, right? And we are living in times where we need to defend our values and defend our position.
And that relates to defense. I mean, the dual use companies in our portfolio, and dual use doesn't just mean defense in the sense of like, let's say missiles or guns or whatever, but it's also about the strategic stuff, like, energy resilience to supply chain, logistics. I mean, wars are not won just because of pure show of force. It's also the logistical capability to get your weaponry to the front line in time, intact and effective, and ready to actually do what they need to do. So that's, it's not just defense, it's also deterrence, and it's also strategic capabilities and resilience. And I think these are the themes that I think Europe is more waking up on now than ever before. I think there was a bit of, let's say, lack of speed and urgency that the situation in Ukraine and the recent changes geopolitically with the US are helping Europeans realize that, we actually need to invest in our resilience.
Erik, I think the politicians, they were just ignoring the actual fact that the war is happening. Don't you think so? It took them 3 years to get it.
I mean, it started with Georgia. So it started, and then Crimea was another. I mean, like, for me, it was like,
Back in the day, right?
Yes, exactly.
Back in the day. Okay, so back in the day, I think you have to catch a flight. Erik, before we let you go, Andrius, you still stay with us for a bit. What would be your final thought to the audience who is right now at Midsummer, listening to the episode just before the Midsummer celebration, and the founders and investors and ecosystem players, and looking for some wise thoughts to hear for...
What's your
Then
Yeah.
I'm definitely not the wisest person, but I think look, what I'm saying is not necessarily particularly new information. It's stuff that you can find out if you're relatively astute and you have your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the world. But I think in terms of Midsummer, like, enjoy it. We have wonderful weather. So
good. I'm so glad to be back. It's the best.
so enjoy. And at the same time, I think just be conscious of the fact that, taking ownership and supporting our early stage brilliant minds is so important for the future of the society we live in and that our kids are going to grow up in. I mean, I have 2 kids, and it matters. I think of the world they're going to live in, and I think this matters a lot for that future. So, yeah.
There's a big corporate that has this slogan, "Don't be evil." Huh?
Don't be evil. Shall we make a selfie before Erik leaves? Yeah, I think so. Okay, we have it. Erik, we'll let you go. Thank you for joining us. All right. Perfect. So, Andrius, now we're just the 2 of us. So, how are you feeling Midsummer? What you gonna do?
Honestly, I was waiting for the summer to come because the spring was actually insane, and the more people I talk around, right, everyone had something it seemed like something is ending with the summer, and that's why everyone tried to fit in every project, every idea, every task. And now I'm just meeting the people and say like that the backlog is at such an insane level, and everyone's like, I'll be working. I say like, dude, just chill. It's summer. Find the balance here, right? Like, just stop a bit, and it's okay to do nothing for a day or 2. And that's exactly what I think I'm gonna do. I will try to find time to do nothing, to create some space in my head to actually figure something out, or to literally enjoy the summer and the weather and the friends and the time.
Don't you think that's so difficult nowadays? Like, we live in such a fast pace. Even like, let's say if we look into this more conscious side of kind of presence, it's still, if you go to a, I don't know, retreat, you still have to do things there.
Exactly.
You have
That's
to
what I'm saying. Like,
meditate,
doing nothing is
you have to move,
luxury.
you have to do yoga. Yeah.
Julia, doing nothing is luxury nowadays, right? And I think we have too high expectations to ourselves. How did we get there? That's a very good question.
Oh, that's what happens when humanity evolves, no? Or
I think humanity doesn't evolve. Humanity stays at the same level. We just have a nicer tools to play with.
that's
Don't
true.
you think
That's
so?
correct. Yeah.
Because our brain is not evolving that fast.
I think we're downgrading.
Yeah, thank you,
That's what I've
ChatGPT. Thank you,
just
ChatGPT, for this,
just
right?
spoke with Paris like just about cognitive offloading. Like yes, just a reminder how more we outsource our knowledge actually.
There was a joke, right? We need technology to do the things that we don't like. For example, house cleaning and paying taxes and etc. But the problem is we usually employ technology to be creative instead of us, to actually have the critical thinking, to make decisions for us, right? Or to offer us the best decision, the
Personal,
analytical, yeah.
professional.
Despite the fact, like, I think that's the beauty of being a human being, is that you can be creative. You can approach from very creative angles towards the problems that you are experiencing, or the situations.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not the problems, right? So let's not lose this creativity. Let's keep it to ourselves. Come on. Like, remember, like you sitting next to the fireplace and having a proper discussion with a friend that you admire, that is coming from a different field than you, right? It's so intellectually stimulating, right? And you will always remember these kind of times, right? But
find it very
but we can
funny.
always sit down and ask ChatGPT to figure something for us, right?
It's
What would
always
you choose?
easier. So that's why I really like about gathering with people you don't know, and like let's say I've just been going on a bike ride, and that's
Yeah,
it. It's
yeah,
you,
yeah, yeah.
and those people you maybe haven't met that well
Yeah,
before,
yeah.
and you find all of you struggling in this 33 degrees heat, and then as well cycling all the way uphill. Well, you got to do what you got to do. You will bond.
But yet again, so it was an active way of spending time
That's
with
true,
people you
that's
don't know, right? And
Yeah.
you were yourself asking a question: how can I stop and do nothing?
Yeah.
Well, I think the answer is very simple: just stop and do nothing,
Yeah.
and see what your mind does to you then, and try to understand why is it such a strange feeling when you suddenly start to feel like I'm worthless. Why I'm not doing anything? I could use this time to do something else. I should think about it. No, you don't have to think about it. And to be very honest, if you're giving away so much of your energy and your thoughts, and you're doing a lot of things in your life, there should be the time for you to gather yourself back, to just come back to your senses, right? And just try to rest, I'd say.
So one of the strategies I have when I fly or I take some other public transportation like train,
Do you sleep or you read?
I do nothing.
You do nothing.
Before I used to like read or listen to some podcasts, whatever. But then I've realized like we're always so tuned in into the media world that I'm like, okay, there has to be a time where you just don't consume.
Exactly. There's so many
One of the
triggers.
best things I found it's actually just looking through the window and just being and waiting while someone is transporting you from A to Z. It's perfect.
I have another offer for the people that will be watching us. Try to come to a meeting. For example, if you're meeting your friend at some bar or restaurant, come early and don't use a phone.
That's
Just
the
sit down, look around, get bored. You will be surprised what are the thoughts that are coming in your
But it
head.
depends on the country you are.
Oh,
if you're
of
if you're in
course.
Greece or Italy or Spain, you don't like the Greeks say, you don't eat alone.
Oh yeah.
So they just like immediately gonna drag you in and
Really?
you're,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
you part on the table in no time.
Well, we're Nordic people, right? So it's
That's
a bit
true.
more simple. I guess personal distance. Let's keep this 5 meters apart, right? So it's still here. It's still here.
That's amazing. Okay, that's great. So I guess I don't know. Summer is here. Heaters are still up in the Baltic.
Yeah, we still have the Finnish weather here in Lithuania, right? Hello, Finland. Can you take your weather back to yourself? Because, as a popular joke from Latvia tells us, we ordered the Spanish beer drinking weather, and it doesn't have a place to come.
Wonderful, great. I don't know. I don't think that summer has anything more smart for me to say, and we covered quite a lot about your fund and uncertainty. So maybe before we wrap up, how are you dealing, Andrius, with uncertainty in such times? Because it is kind of uncertain, right? We can be very hyped all the time and say, oh, everything is great. We have the fund, we have the technology. But there are different stakeholders involved, especially in the area you are working. How do you deal with uncertainty? And the founders who are actually also very, like, you don't know where the day gonna take you.
Yeah, but it contributes a lot to actually understanding where you're at and what is the context around you, right? Obviously, there are always things that you can control and there are things that you can't control. Yes, they can emotionally trigger you so much that you become stressed and you feel that the world is falling apart. But the good way of dealing with this is to literally turn off the news, turn off the app. Don't try to check every 15 minutes what is happening in the world. World will always create some new problems, right? Humanity is a funny thing, right? We know the rules how to live normally, how to live the prosperous life, but yet we choose to to behave differently, right? So yeah, at this point, just relax, step back, look from the distance, then you'll understand there's always something happening and you don't have to be a part of it. And the very good way to deal with it is just to understand what are the things that you can control and fix them, right? It's you, yourself, take the responsibility for the things that matter to you and fix them and leave the rest to the other people because they will deal with it somehow, right?
Sounds so easy and so light, and then
It is way more simple than we think, right?
Yeah.
We tend to overthink so many things, don't you think?
I do think so, and I think you're one of the examples of someone who transformed career and life and directions so often that other people stick to the same route for their whole life because it's very scary to break
Yes.
and to actually befriend the uncertainty. And you seem like the person who is you love
I have
you love the
doubts.
pride.
Really, I have doubts. Of
Yeah,
course
you
I
have that.
do.
So
I'm
how
a
do
normal
you,
human
so
being.
does it
Come
mean like
on.
when you make a change every time in your career from MTV to gambling to working from all the evil corporations
I'm
to
curious.
startups, right?
I'm very
The
curious human being.
curiosity is bigger than
Yes,
your
yes.
fear, right?
I think my main driver in my life was always and will always will be curiosity. And that's why I'm coming early to the meetings and I try to sit down and look at people because I'm curious to understand how do they feel, how do they look, who they are, right? You know those games when you're sitting having a pint of beer and you're trying to guess what is the profession of a dude, right? And that's a
Oh,
very,
I
very
love
creative
this
game,
game.
right?
Yes.
And then you come and you ask a person like, I think you're a financial, you come from finance world,
Yeah.
right? Or something like that. Yeah, but curiosity. And I think we all are very curious, but somehow we tend, when we grow up, we tend to kill the curiosity inside us.
So what do you do when you start feeling that your curiosity is going down?
Usually it means that I'm having a very overwhelming time and rest. Rest is needed, right? Just gather yourself up, go to the forest and have a proper long walk without the direction. Just get lost there.
Beautiful. So I think that's a great way to end today's episode, which was impromptu filmed at in Vilnius. Finally, the summer is coming here, but I think since it's a midsummer and we are a bit overwhelmed from the quite intense half a year already, I can't believe that we are midway through the year.
Exactly.
of
It's,
2025.
guys, it's 5 salaries till Christmas. Can you imagine?
Oh my goodness.
What are the plans for the New Year's Eve?
Yeah, but I think this whole episode is about actually picturing a bit the landscape of what's happening in a deep tech with the fund I admire, how fast we grew, and my good friends as well. And at the same time, yeah, don't be that serious, guys. Let's get lost in the forest. It's summer, and yeah, we need to find time for this kind of grounding and nature exposure to be ready for the fall.
Yeah, and never forget that doing nothing is for free and it doesn't have to be so luxury, right?
So, yeah.
But respect the science.
All right. Thank you, everyone who tuned in for this funky episode.
Yeah, have a
If
nice
you
summer,
like it,
everyone.
let us know. Have a great summer, and
Yeah.
we'll be back.
Ciao. Thank you.